and my name is Gary Giovino, and I'm a professor and chair in the Department of Community Health and Health Behavior in the University at Buffalo's School of Public Health and Health Professions. In 1900, so at the turn of the 20th century, very few people in the United States smoked manufactured cigarettes. It was normally men that used tobacco, and the tobacco they used was in the form of either cigars or pipes or roll your own or chewing tobacco. Very few men smoked cigarettes. Cigarettes were considered effeminate, and real men didn't smoke cigarettes. In the late 1800s, the automatic cigarette making machine was invented so that they could mass produce cigarettes. When you couple that with mass marketing, the invention of the safety match, and mass distribution systems, the manufactured cigarette started to take off. And it really took off around 1913 with the introduction of Camel cigarettes. The Camel cigarettes were reformulated in a way in which the smoke had to be inhaled into the lungs for the nicotine to be absorbed. All prior products, including cigarettes, the smoke was more alkaline and could have been absorbed in the mouth. But for Camels, for the nicotine to be absorbed, people had to take it into the lung. What happened was when the smoke was basically taken into the mouth and maybe the throat, and the nicotine was being absorbed in the mouth, the surface area of the mouth is maybe the size of 3 or 4 palms of your hand. When the smoke gets taken into the lung, there's a much larger surface area. If you flatten out all the alveoli in the lung, the surface area is about the size of a doubles tennis court. That allows for far more transfer of nicotine and the other toxic chemicals in smoke into the lungs and into the system. Well, so more nicotine could get absorbed. So people who started smoking these cigarettes, including, by the way, the soldiers in World War I, when they sent them over in the rations, they reported that these new cigarettes gave them more of a kick. And the kick they were describing was more of a hit of nicotine. Well, the other component to this, the other biological explanation of why manufactured cigarettes took off so much in the early 20th century was that when people would chew tobacco or snuff tobacco or dip tobacco or smoke tobacco and really not inhale, just the smoke would come in contact with the mouth and maybe the throat, the nicotine would get absorbed and go through the systemic circulation and have to go through the liver and take about 20 minutes to get to the brain. When people smoke and inhale into the lung, the carotid artery takes the smoke to the brain in about 10 seconds. The speed of delivery of any drug to the brain is a contributor to how addictive it is. The faster it gets to the brain, the more potential it has for abuse and for addiction. And because nicotine in cigarettes got delivered to the brain in 10 seconds, cigarettes started to dominate. So more nicotine was absorbed into the body, and it was delivered to the brain faster. And that's why cigarettes began to dominate. Coupled with and so when cigarettes began to dominate, they made more money from cigarettes, and then they started to advertise and market them better. And if you read the marketing textbooks, they'll say, if you want to understand marketing in the 20th century, just look at the history of marketing for cigarette smoking. If we continue on, we see that the manufactured cigarette began to dominate the market, so that in the 50s and 60s and 70s, for example, about 85% of the tobacco consumed in the United States was in manufactured cigarettes. The other products, cigars and pipes and roll your own and chewing tobacco and snuff, had much smaller percentages. The good news is that with the advent of the Surgeon General's report, the first Surgeon General's report in 1964, consumption started to go down of all tobacco products, actually. And we've been making progress steadily. The one concern in terms of consumption is that there are 2 products right now where consumption is going up in the last 10 years or so, and that's of snuff and cigars.